Jewish Shamanism, Soul Rectification, Chapter 3, Types of Rectification. I have decided to expand upon the matter of reincarnation, Yibum, and Ibur. The level of Ibur is during a person's life. As mentioned previously, this means that sometimes after a certain mitzvah occurs to a person and he performs it properly, that the nefesh of a certain earlier righteous person will be arranged for him who also had performed this mitzvah correctly. Since they are similar with respect to this mitzvah, the nefesh of the righteous person will become an ibur within him. Not only this, but it is also possible that the righteous person is with him during his lifetime and yet be an ibur within him for the reason mentioned. Footnote 127. Normally, ibur occurs when the soul of a deceased righteous person enters a living person. When this person will do a mitzvah or the mitzvos that are relevant to this righteous person, who also perform them correctly, then the nefesh of the righteous person will come as an ibur in him, even though they are alive at the same time. This is the sod of the verse. The nefesh of David became attached to the nefesh of Yehonasun. First Shemuel 18:1. While they were both alive together, the nefesh of David was an ibur within Yonason. However, regarding reincarnation, the matter requires some elaboration. Therefore, we will begin the discussion with Adam ha-Rishon, and in order to more easily understand the matter. Footnote 128. The writer says, it appears that one mitzvah properly performed is enough to initiate the ibur. He doesn't have to have perfected all mitzvahs to this point. Know that when Adam ha-Rishon sinned, he blemished all the sparks. Footnote 129. Souls, like everything in creation, are composed of nitzot kedusha, holy sparks. Know that when Adam Harishon sinned, he blemished all the sparks of his nefesh, ruach, and neshama. The matter is as it is known, that just as a person's body contains many sparks in his 248 limbs and 365 tendons, there are many sparks in his head, and in his eyes, and in every limb likewise does the nefesh. I'm going to stop here to discuss what the sin of Adam, Harishun, was. His sin in this meaning means deficiency. So, what was he deficient in? He was deficient in perfection. And so, all of these material souls, this nefesh, nefush, and ruach, and neshama, they are like plants growing within a vessel, and they were shot out into the universe, into Adam Harishon, our collected universe, and they weren't yet fully formed, and so they go through these processes to gather the material they need to fill out their perfect sphere or orb of light that they travel into. So his sin was not being perfect like the one who created him. And it's a sin that is rectified, which is the point of this book here. They elucidate in Midrash Tanhuma, footnote 130, Tanhuma Ki Sisa 12, and Midrash Rabbah on Parashas Naso regarding the verse, "Where were you when I founded the earth?" Job 38:4. This teaches that while Adam Harishon was still a golem, uh, footnote 131, this is usually a Kabbalistically created being that lacks a full soul and therefore cannot speak, though it can execute commands. In this context, it is more like a dummy or a pupa. And this one dependent on his head, etc. Footnote 132, the Holy One, blessed is he, showed him every righteous person destined to descend from him, and how the souls came from the spiritual level of either his head, his hair, his neck, his two eyes, etc. In a similar matter, his Ruach was also divided, as is his Neshama as well. Footnote 133, all aspects of his spiritual being can be divided into sections, the parts of which have become the souls of various different people throughout history. When he sinned, he blemished the majority of the sparks of his Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, causing them to become mixed together with the Klipos. Footnote 134, see chapter 1, footnote 42. This is the sod of what is written in the introduction of Sefer Hatikunim on the verse, like a bird that wanders from its nest, Mishli 27:8, just as the divine presence is exiled amongst the Klipos, footnote 135, when the Jewish people go into exile, which is home to the Klipos around the world, the Shekinah is said to go with them to protect and assist them while there. So the exile from the Garden of Eden here into a body upon the earth. And the Shekinah is the Holy Spark or the Holy Spirit, which is a feminine form of the deity that follows us here and gives us a certain almost information cloud to draw from as a mercy. So too are the righteous people exiled with it, wandering after it from place to place. Footnote 136, as a result of Adam's sin, all the souls that had previously been a part of him fell into the Klipos and must leave there in order to enter a body in this world. The head to the head, the eyes to the eyes, etc. This is the sod of the matter of the exile of the souls that is mentioned there. Cain and Hevel, his sons, also committed another sin other than the sin of Adam, their father, and also caused their sparks to become immersed in the depths of Klipos after that. Chapter 3, Types of Rectification, Part 3, Rectified and Non-Rectified. However, in each generation, some of the sparks leave and come to reincarnate in this world. It all depends upon the level of the query of the souls of a particular generation, which can be sparks from the head or the eyes, etc., to be rectified in this world. There are some who, though they reincarnate in order to become rectified, are not careful and sin. Again, he immersed in the klepos as in the beginning, together with all the sparks that are drawn from him and depend upon him. Footnote 137. Sparks can break down into smaller units, each one being a soul in its own right, and which remains connected to its original source. This is an in between state which includes reincarnation and ibur, all of the sparks of the nephesh, even those which had already been rectified, come in as a complete reincarnation from the time of birth with the individual spark that was damaged and do not separate at all until the day of death. However, the reincarnation of the rectified sparks is called Ibur, since they do not share in the sins of this body, only in the merits. But this is the same manner explained regarding souls of righteous people who have died and actually come besod, my footnote, mana al tariq inna ma who have died and actually come besod Ibor during a person's lifetime and not from birth. Footnote 138. In other words, even though the rectified sparks of the Nephesh return with the unrectified sparks of the Nephesh at the time of birth, like a regular reincarnation, they still only function as an Ibur, like the rectified souls of the righteous that come to people after they have already been born. In each case, this allows them to remain undamaged as a result of any sins performed while they are in the body. Thus, a spark that has not been rectified at all through the fulfillment of mitzvos related to it, footnote 139, that that person a positive mitzvah that the person should have performed but did not, or if it transgresses one of the sins for which there is no resurrection. Footnote 140. Certain sins require the punishment of excision, or kores in Hebrew, which means the body will not resurrect, as will be discussed later in chapter 11. Will reincarnate into a second body. Footnote 141. The first body will be destroyed, which will be named after it. Footnote 142. The lifetime will be associated with the sparks in need of rectification and not those already rectified. The sparks that were rectified through mitzvot, but which were blemished through a light sin, footnote 143, for which the punishment is not kores, will come as an ibor as mentioned, even though this is also reincarnation. However, sparks that have not been blemished through sins after having been rectified by mitzvos do not come at all except as an ibur during the lifetime, and also only if he will merit it. What comes out of this is that when the nephesh reincarnates in this world, the main part of the reincarnation is for the specific part that had been blemished related to that body. The rest of the parts already having come in other bodies in which were rectified only return on the level of Ibur. Therefore, when the part that is related to that body does a mitzvah for this world, then the rest of the parts of this then the rest of the parts of the nephesh that are an ibur in him receive a portion in this mitzvah since they assist him in the performance of the mitzvah in a similar manner mentioned previously. Besod ibur of a righteous person, this is not the case when this specific part sins. The rest of the nefesh will not share in the punishment because they help for the good, not for the evil. Thus, when a person is born in a reincarnation, all parts of the nefesh return there. However, the main reincarnation is only from the specific part that is relevant to the body that came to rectify what had been blemished in the previous body. Reward and punishment depends only upon it. The rest of the nefesh will receive reward, but not punishment as mentioned. The rest of the sections of the nefesh take a portion in the reward, but not in the punishment as mentioned. Thus, this nefesh, as a whole, now that it undergoes suffering and punishment that comes to the body during its lifetime, aside from that which it had suffered by the rest of the sparks in previous bodies, and bears the pain of death in this body and the suffering that comes after death, consequently will atone for its previous sins. Hence, each spark of the footnote 144. Hence, each spark of the nefesh only suffers during its own period of rectification, but not after it has been rectified. It has no share in the suffering or punishment of its fellow sparks currently undergoing rectification. So even if you're returning to be rectified and there are 100 sparks and only three of them need to be rectified, the other 97 even won't be harmed or won't incur sin that the three might. Even if you all have to travel together, there's a progression, and hopefully you can fulfill those three this time around and have the Sindar Ruach to do its work. However, for the mitzvot that it did in previous reincarnations, as well as for the mitzvot performed by this spark, it will receive a portion as mentioned. In this manner, its rectification and perfection will become completed. Footnote 142. Thus, all sparks have a share in the reward of the overall nefesh after its rectification. However, it is, footnote 146, that is, the parts of the nefesh that have already been rectified. However, if it had a portion in the current sins of this spark, currently undergoing rectification, there could never be rectification for the nefesh throughout all of its reincarnations, since a person always sins. My footnote. We share in a body because having a new body and the same soul would be equivalent to hell, as you could never be redeemed, since you are both rewarded and demerited. For instance, for me to return would mean I would continue to sin, but if I hack it from outside, I only benefit from the good it does, not the evil. And the outside meaning that you don't share in its evil, you only share in its good. And so there could never be rectification for the nefesh throughout all of its reincarnations, since a person always sins and would add new transgressions to previous sins from other reincarnations. There would be no end to this, since the rest of the portions of the nefesh do not have a portion in the evil of this spark, only in its merits. Sins can be completed and atoned for, and not accumulate. Merit will be renewed and increased in every reincarnation of each spark, which will result in an end to the stage of reincarnation and for the rectification of the nefesh. Understand this well. My note for fafhem, which means understand this well. In this way, the Nefesh will become completed and all of its sparks through reincarnation until they no longer need to reincarnate to rectify any of the sparks from the head of the Nefesh to its feet. Footnote 147. Just as the entire structure of the Sephiros are set up like a human body, so in each level within the system, hence within the level of Nefesh, there is also a top called head and a bottom called feet. Once the feet are completed, then Moshiach will come, as mentioned in the Zohar and Parashas Pekudeh 258a. Footnote 148, the Zohar explains that the exile continues as long as souls need to be drawn out from the klipos, and the last ones to leave will be those from the legs and feet of Adam, the klipos, the structure of the klipos that mimics the sephiros on the side of holiness. See chapters 15 and 20. And at the end of Parashas Vayachil, so that's the end of part 3 of chapter 3.